it is, can you avoid Twisted Mind not being the Expendables? Because they have been the X factors that can just absolutely ruin teams, as we are on our way to our second to last game of the day. Miramar is going to be where we're riding out the entirety of this one, and man, oh man, tournament survival on the line, as this is just PUBG at PUBG's finest.
Yeah, and I mean, even though, it's pretty well known at this point, you and I love Miramar. It's my favorite map. I think it's your favorite map too. Tego is very quickly starting to kind of overtake it.
It did try to sell me on that whole shipyard game a second ago.
It definitely did. But look at this plane path, very east, cutting off a pretty decent amount of this map from the west and the teams that would want to stretch there. So the possibility of maybe seeing some alt drops is there. I still don't think we're going to see any early contentions here, as again, with only 2 games left, it's just, the risk is too high, and it's just not, it's unnecessary.
The only thing that we might see as awkward is maybe fighting over a vehicle. And that would be about it. Nobody wants to hot drop on top of each other. Actually, look at how many teams don't even want to go to the east right now, just because they're figuring that's where everybody's going to be going. It is a just push it as far as you can western run.
The thing that worries me, though, again, is a circle that would... You know what we actually have not seen in any of these Miramar games is a circle leaning very far south, like even further south than Chuma, like towards Higos, right? There's actually a lot of fun areas to play in there, not even just compounds, but just the terrain is very conducive to walking and playing on foot and taking those firefights, especially in 4-on-4s. I'd really actually like to see a southern circle, because those can be really fun, especially for an aggressive team on foot, to watch them kind of the adaptive playstyle there. So I'm hoping for that. Obviously, I don't really always get what I want. This will be a very much central circle here around La Bandita and Los Leones.
Yeah, I mean, this is...
But if you didn't.
This is still a pretty open circle. We do have the hillsides that are around Puerto that are very fun, one of my favorite areas. But we also have some of my least favorite areas, as we've got the Impala fields that are going to play, the Picado fields still also going to be in here. We even have just a touch of a wall from Power Grid in play, but that should kind of give you an idea on how far down to the southeast that this is going to be, as Hacienda is our pretty much northernest area inside of it.
Yeah, and not only that, but again, kind of going back to a conversation that we had earlier, we really haven't seen many urban endings at all. So like, if we do see this one end towards Los Leones, we've seen time and time again, not only regionally but internationally, how claustrophobic that city can be, especially when you have those high rises, especially with the unfinished, kind of skyscrapers with all the scaffolding up there. It can lead to some pretty hectic firefights, as well as some pretty hectic angles to try to find some cover from. Not to mention just like multiple 5-stories in there as well.
And I'm having flashbacks to a specific qualification phase at PGC 2019, where La Bandita was kind of an important section of a phase run to try to make a comeback, and that's pretty centered inside the circle
of all time. Yeah, Phase Sunday, I mean, that's pretty much where it was born. I mean, that still was one of the more impressive days of play we've seen. But yeah, that La Bandita as well, being one of those areas is a massive bull, and there's so many different areas to actually play around, especially east and west. Those two sides generally don't fight, but they do dictate a lot of the rotations that happen around that area. So we'll see if that comes into play. Again, obviously this is just first circle. Many of the teams actually already inside this one, Matt, with only a few needing to rotate in, those ones being Forest, Game PT, which is already pretty much in there with Daku as a foothold, and then you also have just to the southwest, Day Trade and DD Team.
DDT kind of being our odd team out right now, that maybe if they have the 2 best games that they've ever had, we might be talking about, but there's such a big point drop off around them right now. It's pretty hard. I mean, it's even hard whenever you're looking just at the Sarvum Day Trade drop off. Once you start looking much further down there, you just have to pray that everybody else goes out early and you have the best game of your life. But that said, looking at GP, Forest, Tyloo, you can't touch the brakes right now. One bad game, and then suddenly you're just back in the thick of all of it.
Yeah, if DD Team goes out early here, I would almost venture to say that their tournament run here may come to an end, especially if they don't get any points at all, as they are going to be...
That's the scary thing, right? Is they're the ones that have to play for the biggest games of their lives, which means they're suddenly going to be just wild around everything. And if you come in contact with them, they can screw up your game pretty harshly.
Well, that's the thing with DD Team as well. We've seen them try to get aggressive early game. Obviously, we saw them take a fight in some of the other games. I think one of them was against Twisted, right? So they've been trying, right? They've been trying to employ a little bit more of an aggressive play style. They know that they desperately need the points through kills, but they're just not finding it. Even that game where we watched them lose the fight against the duo of Snakers and Kickstart, right? Like that was a good start for them, but they were still not able to close that one out. So yeah, it's going to be rough going for them if anything at all.
What's also going to be scary is how centered Na'Vi and the Expendables are inside this circle for everybody else. Hey, but at least they're not on the outside of the circle having to fight their way in,
yeah,
right?
At least they're also not harassing all the other teams. Again, the Expendables, what they did that last game to LG, they have done time and time again to any of the teams that is rotating around them. They love, especially when they're in the circle and they see teams rotating out on the edge, they love to mirror them and close off those rotations. And we have seen them punish teams so many times, not only regionally, but also here internationally. The Expendables, again, they have been just one of my surprise teams to watch, but also one of my favorite teams to watch now.
They hold down this weird triangle that keeps shifting where the third and fourth position
split,
are. Yeah, and it's always to counter move around any other team that they spot in rotation early. They spot out somebody several hundred meters out, and then suddenly the other two members shift around that, and then they're just trying to see if they can get anybody to stop, figure out, hey, who's going to stop and where are they going to stop to scout here, and then we set up a trap for them. And it has been one of the key components for how they've been able to climb.
I want to say, like, yeah, at least 60-70% of the time they're actually punishing those scouts as well. So very strong, very dangerous team to kind of rotate around, and I think the rest of the lobby is very well aware of that. So they're going to try. I mean, it's kind of hard to avoid the Expendables, especially when you don't know exactly where they're going to be, but fortunately for everyone, as we said, they're dead center, so they're probably not going to be doing too much of that, as everyone else is inside the circle, Matt. And when we look at the center of this one in between La Bandita and Los Leones, you know, there's a decent amount to play for. A lot of ridges, obviously some compounds there as well. Most of those already being taken, but more importantly, there is that road that pretty much cuts this one into north and south, and that road is actually not as easy to cross as you may think, even though it's, you know, it's usually not camped by any teams. It's hard to get across that road, especially with this many teams in the center.
LG do have a good vision onto it, and that's what they're trying to exploit right now. They're in a good line for this one, as well as other teams on our cusp. We do have Friendly Fire that's going to be playing just to a very strong compound around the Impala Fields area. They can look into the east and get a lot of damage out. And Luminosity, that's kind of what they're trying to exploit off of this, right? If this goes to the south, they're going to be great off. If not, it goes to the north. They've got some information. The problem with it is the teams that they're going to have information on are Tyloo, the Expendables, 17.
Yeah.
that's not necessarily a good place to
fairly
be.
strong teams. And speaking of Tyloo, again, they have pushed their way all the way back here to the top 8. They are currently in 8th place, 57 points. They are the cusp now for some of these teams. Again, 3 points behind our Sarvam. And so there's a lot of pressure on them. Yes, they're currently in, but again, when you are that team that is currently holding the line, the margin for error is just so much less, especially when you make a mistake that can snowball into a really bad game.
Whenever you're in that 8th place position, that 7th place position, hell, even 9th or 10th, every single time you lose a member, you just feel the tournament slipping through your fingers, and it just puts so much more pressure on every single action you make after that.
Yeah, you know, it's rough being there, being on the cusp before, and barely qualifying for some events. It's nerve-wracking, man. But
dude, just listen to how quiet it is in the circle.
Yeah.
That should tell you how nerve-wracking it is for so many of these players. Nobody's wanting to make commitments. Nobody wants to be the first team to just get pounced on.
Yeah, and that's also the problem with these big circles, though, where there is a lot of room to play, is everyone does set up fairly comfy, cozy, as you like to say, but the problem then becomes the next shift. And even in Circle 2, it starts to create a lot of problems for these teams, especially if it does go east here. We see a lot of those teams bunched up around Los Leones and La Bandita. Again, that road becomes very dangerous to traverse and rotate on if the shift does come east, especially with how many teams are currently in there. So that is something I'm looking for. I'm actually looking at Petrichor to possibly rotate to the south. Oh no, Hella, this is not where you want to be as a solo at all. As Paige already getting very aggressive.
Oh my God, he's just managing to hold this together the best they can. Hella's finally going to go down. And is it going to come at too big of a cost? They want to get the flush out. They should be able to get the reses, but that was scary. This is a strong compound, and I understand why he wanted to scout it, though.
Yeah, but that was very worrying. The fact that he got 2 knocks onto Friendly Fire, I was worried that Paige was actually going to get flushed there. That would have been a tragic, tragic start to this game for
And who heard
Fire.
that? The Expendables. Who's already sent a couple of members over to scout that compound? The Expendables. So another firefight happens over there. It's going to get third-partied.
There's a good chance. The only thing, though, with that, man, is that I mean, maybe, yes, especially if they're in vehicles, they could try to dictate that. But I think there's enough of ridges around there where they're thankfully somewhat safe.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you just want that. You are, and again, an agent of chaos.
Well, I'm just looking at it, and that's what they did. They hopped in the vehicles. They cut over there for a second. They were like, do we get involved? No.
It's too far.
Too much. Not enough yet. But if that had been a 4-man crash, that could have been a different story.
Yeah, 4-man crash, I agree. They probably would have tried to get a little more out of that, get a little piece, so to speak, as we now are looking for this next shift. And it's going to center up. So again, a lot of these teams currently safe, but I am going to see, or I'm curious to see how many teams actually opt to send it into Leonis. His force is also on the outside of this one, you pointing out on the east edge.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem for them, is they are not in the most comfortable position in 7th place right now, and they're going to have to cut in around the Impala Fields itself. Los Leonis is kind of open, so they can kind of sneak into that one if they would like to. Los Leonis, all of it pretty much still inside the circle as well, so we can get another bait and switch. Bandita also going to be in play up into the north, as that area known for drawing a lot of attention in firefights as well. A couple of crosses now coming in for teams, but still just very minimal pot shots, which means the fact that information gathering a lot harder.
Yeah, especially like I said, if you're one of the teams that's currently maybe not in the best position in the north, you're coming in on the outside like Force. I'm curious to see if they are going to opt to go for Leonis. Like, yes, it's not the best position in the circle, but it is somewhat safe, and they know that they will be able to at least kind of move through the city and find a safe way in, as we do see Tai Lu find Zenith from D plus Kia. That's going to be one of their members falling in rotation.
I do want to point out we also do have 17 running a 2-2 split. Daytrade is trying to bisect in between them, running a split of their own. 17 is trying to regroup. We might see a skirmish off of that one, but that's about the hottest thing that we've got going on other than this D plus Kia rotation. Is it looks like they have finally found somewhere that's quite enough for them to want to stop. And I mean, that's a hell of a deal, as that's very centered. That is the center.
It is very, very centered. They'll find it for now. They do need to be careful later, but yeah, that concrete prow is going to be a decent spot. I'm also wondering how long the Expendables are actually going to be able to hold this split in this circle.
17 did regroup, as you can see now. Pretty all together. They did manage to bypass against Daytrade. That's just going to be the west of them. Petrichor Road going to be regrouping just to the west of Daytrade as well. That's one of the reasons why Daytrade now committing back into their firm regroup. Twisted Mind's going to be playing to the north, providing some referee. It's going to be Lou taking some shots into everything. But while this has all happened, Forest is also making their rotation into the east. They do have themselves Tai Lu as well as Friendly Fire that could be taking some shots in a minute. But yes, this is, I think, if you're going to have to make them play into the circle, about the best you can do, but man, where do you even land? If you're not committing to Los Leonis, you could get picked apart.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, an option here is for the high ground would be optimal where LG is currently sat, so they should see that that's not an option. But I mean, even some of the warehouses below wouldn't be the worst, right? I mean, most of the terrain at this point, as far as the good terrain, is taken by a lot of these teams in the center, but there are some drop options here for the team of GPT.
And they did send one down. Remember, that's how they lost Hella. He went down to the south, so that's why they're jumping with 3 at the time. Already see the Tracers going up after them. Again, I want this. I'm going to sit down and talk to a couple of these players and just see, like, okay, jumping in circle 2, you're the only team that's coming into it. What's it like having 10 teams all shooting at you and just watching everything come your way?
As they are starting to fall here, and they're going to be landing actually on the west side, just where Sarvam is. Yeah, they're actually dropping right on top of Sarvam.
While Summer is also making a play over into the same area. Looks like he's realized this is way too hot. I don't want to be involved. But if you mind, do manage to make a pretty decent landfall, take some damage out of it. She'll at least hit some of this, but it's going to be Sarvam gets a knock on finish, and this is not going well.
No, as you would expect, I mean, even with Sarvam kind of hunkered down on that concrete, they still were able to wipe them quite easily. But
here's the problem: 6th place team now out early. We talked about the worries of this
61
one.
61 points. That's what happens. Again, they went for a very risky play there as the circle has actually shifted north. And yeah, so the Expendables will consolidate. This is what I was wondering, is when are they going to make that move, especially when they get dead center? There is no reason to hold that split any longer.
Oh, this is about to become even more nerve-wracking. Our teams that were playing down to the south, we've got a lot of clusters that are starting to come into play. DDT looks like they might be eyeing in the position where we see LG playing from. Moving right into that hillside is LG trying to regroup what is going on. Nades are going to slow it down. I don't know how much DDT wants to commit into this. Yeah, that might just be a reposition, but it's going to be Sarvam on the other side, who just did a good job on defending up their side. E-Arena also going to get that high ground that we just saw LG playing from just a moment ago, so they're going to be looking right down into all of this. LG not going to be too content in their position either. They're just going to go ahead and hop out. Looks like they've got their eyes set a bit more north, and given the fact that this is due center on TE's position, which is a field, yes, there's a lot of ridges in play, but it's also meaning the fact that it's everybody kind of playing along next to each other on the edge.
And I actually love this. Looks like Friendly Fire and Forest are currently eyeing the same compound that TE was split in just a moment ago. And so, yeah, as you were saying, the center of this, the plateau that the Expendables finds themselves on, that massive compound, is flat, right? So the area around them is very easy to see. As we now see the set, and yeah, both teams have realized this was free. Roth is going to get there first, but Master will land as well as we lose Snakers in rotation.
They're just looking for anything, and it looks like this dip is going to be all they can find. Everything else is going to be
okay for now, though.
Yeah, it's
not great, but it's okay.
I put a very big okay on this one. It is kind of terrifying. Let's never forget mortars are a thing.
Yeah, but if they can keep 3 up alive, Day Trade as well as the Expendables, even 17 are going to actually protect their position. Yes, they are in threat of being naded or mortared, as you said, 100%. But if they can just survive and become edge, they actually have a nice, I say nice, but they have a decent position to fight from. So we'll see. I mean, even with 3 members alive, that's not the worst.
And also the pathing options is one of the things we need to start looking at. Some of these teams that have kind of entrenched in. If this leans in and keeps the donut area of TE and their island in the middle of the field, the center point, we're going to see a lot of pathing in the hillsides to the west and to the east. Forest did get that compound earlier. Bendita itself now presently belongs to Friendly Fire, who kind of eyeing down that sight line. Forest,
yeah.
I think that they're more comfortable than anything that's happening over in the west whenever we're looking at LG's position, Day Trade for the time being, Petrichor Road, Twisted Mind still being that factor up in the north as well.
And they have so much northern control as well, a very wide split, and why not, right? They know, especially with the position that Spyro is holding, they know that there's nobody around them, and Patulin's now going to be able to drive in for free as he was rather far. We're about to see this next shift, though, and this is where the chaos will come, especially if it goes north. All those teams in the south are going to be left without a... And it does. And look now, the position that I love that Roth backed off of that, because he's like, you know what, we still have the entire bowl of Bendita to play. There's no reason for me to give up that life, especially when we watched him give up his life in that previous game against Forest coming in on the west edge of the fields there at Gatka. So keep 4 alive and keep a good position.
I love this from DK. Just go. You've got to go right now. Nothing's going to be good. Just try to get ahead of everything else. There is a bit of hesitation as the rest of the teams are like, what the absolute hell do we have to try to work with inside this? There's fields on opposite sides of Bendita. Bendita itself being a key component inside of it. And it's also going to be Navi as well as the Expendables holding down strong points in it. And to the north of that is going to be 4 Angry Men. All of our outlier teams in Tyloo, E-Arena, DDT, Sarvim, 17 Gaming, Petrichor Road, Day Trade. And it's just going to get so crazy into this one. 777 has actually moved down to the south. DDT as well as E-Arena already inside of their fight. Sarvim is just going to bypass through all of this, hoping the fact that they can get by whatever is going to be trying to brew out of the Expendables.
But I don't know where Sarvim's going to go as we look at this Viper team. And also, don't forget about what I said about LG. They're actually in a position now where they are edge, and they should be able to use that position slightly to their advantage. As now E-Arena Zizzy will go down. Evo Pig will go for the trade. It's just down to Mighty. And E-Arena is so close, but so far as they will go down. Emo Pig potentially with 4 kills might be able to recover the team.
Oh, but he's got 777 that's still playing the position on the outside of this one. He's got to be so cautious. 17 Gaming, nobody wants to commit in because they realize that there's a very high likelihood that they want to die. So this has led to this game of chicken on the outside of everything. So with Tyloo having to make an odd pathing, it's going to be Petrichor Road jumping inside their vehicles and pathing right next to 17.
Yeah, look at the way that 777 is flexed out. Again, this is such a confident team. The ability to go into a 3-1 like that and just take some loot, take the kill as well, and help wipe DD team. Expendables looking so strong, but as you said, it's going to be Petrichor now rotating into the southwest and 17. And Day Trade also has a very rough rotation as they're going to go between LG and Twisted.
There is going to be a crate that's going to be landing next to LG to provide some more cover and maybe some more sustenance for them to have to deal with. Tyloo finds a sneaky little path, and they're going to just be playing on top of a hillside just to the southeast of everything. So Petrichor Road having to deal with the fact that it is going to be expendable sight lines in just one moment when they crest that hill. And if they opt away from going where 17's at, it's going to be LG and their dip that they're going to be playing Suchu, getting a massive amount of damage into this to start it off. But the Petrichor train is beginning. The caravan is going to be hunting down anywhere to stop at. They're going to bypass what's going to be going on with LG. It looks like they're going to be running right next to the expendable sprays coming out. Summer's already going to be going down, and it's going to be 777 that's going to be finding that. Petrichor Road cutting up. Looks like they're going to be finding a path right along where D plus Kia is going to be stopping at. The shack, this is the only place that they can go. They're going to be popping out right into it. Nade's going to be landing just getting picked apart.
And just like that, yeah, where do you go? Ixlif now the only member left alive as the fight on the west has started. It's going to be LG versus Daytrade, but still the Expendables doing so much damage to the other teams on the field, and now 17 will join the fight here on the southwest.
This dip is the new process point where everybody's wanting to move into, and the rest of LG just cannot manage to hold it. They're going to go down early and cause another set of pressures to mount up inside their next game. Daytrade, though, still has to contend up against 17 Gaming. DDT got separation away from all of this, but with the way that the new circle has managed to pop, and it's staying right along this Expendables, Na'Vi, Twisted Minds line, our outlier teams on edge yet again having to make a leapfrog into desperation.
Daytrade, they found a momentary reprieve from all the chaos here on the west side, but they still have 17 underneath them, and more importantly, they have Twisted above them, and the Expendables comfortably sitting in the south. And so, I mean, they're going to survive for now. The next shift is, if they don't get it, they're going to be in quite a bit of trouble. And even looking at the east, you do have Friendly Fire that are still in. They have a massive ridge to work with there on Bandita, but if they get pushed out, they then have to contend with Na'Vi as well as 4AM. So no one is comfortable here just yet.
The only benefit for everybody that's in the hunt right now and trying to get into that top 8 is Na'Vi, Twisted Minds, and the Expendables are all very defended in this. So it means that there's going to be a high likelihood that they're going to eat a lot of points. Downside, you want those points yourself.
You also want the positions that they're in. So that's a big problem. Is now Tyloo is going to pull up right on the position here on the south side of Sarvum. Nades now coming out from Sarvum. They know that they must get rid of this team.
While this is going on, the Expendables have actually separated out. They're moving more into DDT's position, and they might get a backflank onto Tyloo. This is meant for a very awkward firefight. Tyloo, while they are inside the circle, they have to be careful. Force is also going to be coming out here. It's going to be Friendly Fire taking shots into them. That's going to force them more into the south. Sarvum reading this, seeing the opportunity, cresting back into this hillside. The 8th place position team presently at 59 points, down to just a few members clinging to life. Baron Peak goes for a peek inside the smokes and seeing if he can find it, but no! 755 is going to deny that, at least, as Blue Zones and Forest both coming in.
And Forest, as you said, are coming into this fight now. Knock is going to be traded there. 755, the last member left of Tyloo, as he's doing his best to fight, but they will actually wipe. But 10 kills, the size of the Expendables. Their ability to flex out and dictate this fight has just been so impressive all around the circle on the south side.
While this is happening, we also have Friendly Fire in the north, realizing their kills to be had here, making a shift down into it, being slowed down by what's going on. I know, these guys are just running amok and ruining everybody's day. The Expendables taking control of everything to the south. Forest now just down to 1. Friendly Fire moved in here. They wanted some kills, and now they're starting to be pinned down by the Expendables.
Yeah, Friendly Fire had to come out of, well, actually, they didn't even need to come out of that bowl just yet. I think they were trying to get points off of Forest in this fight, but now they find themselves in quite a disadvantageous position here, kind of in a bowl on the east side. And the problem is I don't know if they can get back up to that because of the position that Na'Vi holds, so they're going to have to get rid of Forest quick and then start to move up to take this fight with the Expendables on the south.
Skeppy just sending it, man. There is very few options to work around, and cresting closer and closer to Na'Vi, he realizes, okay, this small dip is going to be about all I've got to work with, but that could still have sightline by Friendly Fire at any given moment. The circle hard shifts yet again, and it's going to go down into the southeast. It's going to be the Expendables, all that control that they've been having with Na'Vi up in the north. Good luck to our teams in the hunt. Daytrade and Friendly Fire is you're going to have a hellacious firefight ahead of you.
Yeah, Friendly Fire now know that they need to take the fight again. They need to get rid of the Expendables on the south. The problem is the Expendables are so comfortable fighting for their position, and they even have a nice 2-1-1 split there in favor of fighting Friendly Fire. So, I mean, depending on how this one goes, at least Na'Vi is in no position to, I was going to say third party yet, but they're actually going to get the knock on a 777, and here comes 4EM. This is going to be behind their position.
Rolling in the Bandita crater itself. They're going to pop up right back behind Friendly Fire, and this could be a deadly jack-in-the-box. Friendly Fire, they at least managed to take down what was going on with 777 in front of them. Sharp Shot's going to be hopping into a vehicle at roughly the moment they crest out. Crazy's going to get some damage into Page. Friendly Fire backs up against the blue zone. They don't have to move too far to get into safety, but it's going to be 4 angling men. They're taking the shots into it. You can see 49-49 for Day Trade and Friendly Fire, both with everybody between them and 4 a.m. presently out.
Friendly Fire just needs to hold. They know they just need to kind of wait this out, wait for the blue to slowly start to cut out 4 a.m. and cause issues for them. Otherwise, those angles are way too strong as we're now heading up to the northwest side of this Twisted Minds, embroiled in a fight with D+ Kia. Another one of those teams that must survive this with as many kills as possible. Down to 3 already as they're taking a fight against Twisted in a hill that is not in their favor. They're hunkered down in a shack.
Well, all of this edge fighting is happening. Exlip somehow managed to sneak his way into the zone right north of the Expendables while they were caught up with Friendly Fire. So in a safe position, playing for any type of position points they can. But to the downside of 4 angry men, Na'Vi has realized this reposition. Looking up the hillside, and you can see it has just become so gate-kept. We've got Na'Vi and the Expendables both just holding back 4 angry men, and anything that Friendly Fire is trying to do, every single inch that they're just trying to fight their way into this zone is getting punished by anything that's coming out from Na'Vi as well as the Expendables.
Delwyn is just a massive thorn in Friendly Fire's side as he is sitting on top of that big barn building, that big warehouse, and he is just raining down hell. He's knocked multiple members of Friendly Fire. They are able to at least recover it as Day Trade will fall, but yeah, they need to deal with this. Otherwise, Friendly Fire is pinned down. They're now actually opting for a fight against Na'Vi, and I think this is the correct play.
I think that I said a second ago that Exlip's him in a shack. No, he's not. He's got a hay bale. This is what he's hiding behind. I believe is what we saw a second ago. So Twisted Minds now moving a bit more into this D+ Kia line, as Twisted Minds also has a lot of vision up on top of that hill, realizing that they want to get rid of the threats that are back behind them. And
beautiful shit for Friendly Fire, though.
Ooh, this is going to be even more of a problem as Twisted Minds now has to get aggressive into this line, and right in between the Na'Vi Twisted Minds sandwich is going to be D+ Kia, and Exlift has to move.
Exlift does have to move, but the problem is he's going to move into a potential position there where the Expendables will find themselves. They have a ridge, but I imagine they're going to start to send someone towards Friendly Fire to kind of keep tabs on what's happening in that fight, and the other ones will go out to clear the circle in front of them as the deployable cover will fly away. Alia will find the nade onto Deva, and that's another member down for D+ Kia.
High ground still favoring up into this Twisted Minds line. You can see that they've got the vision for now, but they are going to have to move. The Expendables really being a key factor in this, as well as Twisted Minds. Twisted Minds still keeping an eye on them, not making it too easy for their rotation. But you said Na'Vi, Friendly Fire, they have control of this line. Friendly Fire, you can see everybody is dead around them on their leaderboard. If they want to make it into the top 8, this is their opportunity. But you can see finally it's going to be D+ Kia going down, and this is where everything's going to have to start to kick off. The blue zone is coming in, and it's going to be into the waiting arms of Na'Vi and Friendly Fire. Can you find a path?
Yeah, Friendly Fire, they're not going to get another opportunity like this with circle favor, as well as not having to deal with this kind of scuffle that's happening on the west side. Twisted is actually being forced into the sidelines of the Expendables, as now they're forced to defend. They could set up to kind of receive this, but they also have to be very careful because Na'Vi is now very comfortable in the north.
Friendly Fire doesn't have too much vision in what's happening over here.
They don't.
And that means that a lot of these kills are going to be going in amongst these teams. Na'Vi's going to be wrapping in right back behind where we see Twisted Minds at. So with this, all of these kills are just going to get soaked up by our top 3 teams, while Friendly Fire is just trying to scrap up anything they can.
Yeah, but they have to be careful. They need to just slow it down because the win is more important than getting a few kills here and going out early. So they will kind of stave that push off. It is going to be Twisted getting kind of peppered between the blue as well as the Expendables, again, who have just been so dominant. I'm curious how many kills is the Expendables at right now?
They are at
15 kills!
That is, oh, they are just asserting so much dominance right now. We talked about point sponges. There are 3 at range right there, right? The Expendables, Na'Vi, as well as Twisted Minds. Luckily, Twisted Minds is now out, but so much circle control just going over to Friendly Fire and Na'Vi is the Expendables just an outline wall to play from.
So the Expendables do have a few angles here on Friendly Fire. They would love to push forward and play the ridges. The circle does close just a little bit to the west, still very central, obviously, being phase 8. It is going to be Na'Vi now pivoting. They know their biggest threat is going to be Friendly Fire in the south. Meanwhile, on the side of Friendly Fire, they need to spread out and make sure that they're not kind of sitting in the same pocket ridges. As one nade, some utility will get rid of them. But this is awkward. This is actually awkward for both teams because of the way this layout is. It's essentially 2 ridges forming into a plateau that both teams are going to try to peek over, as you see right here.
The Expendables and the third-party planners themselves eyeing exactly what's going on as these 2 lines are setting up against each other. Once this pops off, they will find a way way to become involved in everything, as the circle has gone fairly centered, which means that there is near on no cover. Just a couple of hills to be playing from. You can see Na'Vi with just a couple of feet inside of it, as well as Friendly Fire, but Friendly Fire doesn't want to venture too much further out, as they are still terrified of that angle and the lines that come out from the positioning of the Expendables.
This is awkward. Again, Expendables will be able to play somewhat of a plateau there. Whatever's left of that field they were playing just to the northeast of their compound there on the edge. But looking at, this fight is so awkward because it's just two plateaus trying to peek each other out. Excuse me, the plateau separated by two ridges there. As you see, the Expendables still very much can dictate what's happening, especially if a knock comes out here with this bolt from Tanbu.
Ooh, playing it patient. He doesn't want to reveal himself.
Yeah,
if he goes for a peek up there, that means that all of Na'Vi can spin back around. He's got the vision. Yep, they do spot him out as well, cresting the top of that hillside. It has benefits, as you can look down, you get some type of cover, but two different squads waiting to pick apart your two remaining members is not a good place to be.
And this is just going to come down to the circle closing. It's going to come down to phase number 9, and it's going to slowly push both Na'Vi and Friendly Fire towards the center as they're both playing very close to the edge here. Vehicles now somewhat being used to block some angles here. But Na'Vi is moving up now. They're starting to get a little aggressive, but again, I worry about utility for both teams.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about as well. Na'Vi's had to bounce around a lot more. They're sitting on much lower smokes. They have been able to pick up a lot of kills, but it was in the much more death funnel area of where the firefighting at, where a whole bunch of the utility was going to be going. Friendly Fire's fights have been pretty clean over here, so they're sitting on a couple of smokes, but trying to figure out which areas you want to block out. Expendables, though.
Don't forget about the Expendables,
Dude,
though.
They've been sitting up here for a long time and still have the tools to work with. Page gets a knock on a Duck Juice. That could make this a lot easier, as now Na'Vi going to start throwing out their utility as well.
That's a lot of damage, though. They need to push, folks.
Wrapping up.
Here it comes.
Coming up right back behind him. It's going to be Alia opening it up, gets the knock on Roth, looks back down Page as well. Pixel hiding inside the smokes, and that was done so fast. Shots going to be coming out now. The Expendables going to be looking down that hillside into everything. Pixel just trying to cling to life, getting any points he can.
Yeah, he is prone in the smoke, though. As long as he can survive, it's actually going to be the Expendables helping quite a bit. A lot of damage going their way. Na'Vi is still up against the blue, though, as they have center now. That is going to be it for the Expendables. It's just down to Pixel. He will get second place, but Na'Vi will clean that one up, and what a crazy game that was.